If you have 50 different plug types, appliances wouldn't be available and would be very expensive. But once an electric outlet becomes standardized, many companies can design appliances and competition ensues, creating variety and better prices for consumers. Skype actually does get a fair bit of revenue. People always fear change. People feared electricity when it was invented, didn't they? People feared coal, they feared gas-powered engines. There will always be ignorance, and ignorance leads to fear. But with time, people will come to accept their silicon masters. The worst pandemic in modern history was the Spanish flu of 1918, which killed tens of millions of people. Today, with how interconnected the world is, it would spread faster. There are people who don't like capitalism and people who don't like PCs. But there's no one who likes the PC who doesn't like Microsoft. I have seen firsthand that agricultural science has enormous potential to increase the yields of small farmers and lift them out of hunger and poverty. I really had a lot of dreams when I was a kid, and I think a great deal of that grew out of the fact that I had a chance to read a lot. Life is not fair. Get used to it. Life is not divided into semesters. You don't get summers off, and very few employers are interested in helping you find yourself. Well, no one gives aid to Zimbabwe through the Mugabe government. I have an excellent memory, a most excellent memory. Everyone needs a coach. It doesn't matter whether you're a basketball player, a tennis player, a gymnast, or a bridge player. When you want to do your homework, fill out your tax return, or see all the choices for a trip you want to take, you need a full-size screen. At Microsoft, there are lots of brilliant ideas, but the image is that they all come from the top. I'm afraid that's not quite right. The nuclear approach I'm involved in is called the traveling wave reactor, which uses waste uranium for fuel. There's a lot of things that have to go right for that dream to come true. Many decades of building demo plants, proving the economics are right. But if it does, you could have cheaper energy with no CO2 emissions. When the PC was launched, people knew it was important. Bitcoin is mostly about anonymous transactions, and I don't think over time that's a good way to go. I'm a huge believer in digital currency, but doing it on an anonymous basis, I think that leads to some abuses, so I'm not involved in Bitcoin. I have been struck again and again by how important measurement is to improving the human condition. The most interesting biofuel efforts avoid using land that's expensive and has high opportunity cost. They do this by getting onto other types of land or taking advantage of byproducts that aren't used in the food chain today or by intercropping. Measles will always show you if someone isn't doing a good job on vaccinations. Kids will start dying of measles. Security is, I would say, our top priority because for all the exciting things you will be able to do with computers, organizing your lives, staying in touch with people, being creative, if we don't solve these security problems, then people will hold back. Should there be cameras everywhere in outdoor streets? My personal view is having cameras in inner cities is a very good thing. In the case of London, petty crime has gone down. They catch terrorists because of it. And if something really bad happens, most of the time you can figure out who did it. In America, math classes, we teach a lot of concepts poorly over many years. In the Asian system, they teach you very few concepts very well over a few years. I think the thing we see is that as people are using video games more, they tend to watch passive TV a bit less. And so using the PC for the internet, playing video games, is starting to cut into the rather unbelievable amount of time people spend watching TV. If you think your teacher is tough, wait until you get a boss. He doesn't have tenure. Helping convene global stakeholders to establish a set of measurable, actionable, and consensus-built goals focused on extreme poverty is invaluable. Certainly, I'll never be able to put myself in the situation that people growing up in the less developed countries are in. I've gotten a bit of a sense of it by being out there and meeting people and talking with them. Be nice to nerds. Chances are you'll end up working for one. We're in the throes of a transition where every publication has to think of their digital strategy. If your culture doesn't like geeks, you are in real trouble. Historically, privacy was almost implicit because it was hard to find and gather information. But in the digital world, whether it's digital cameras or satellites or just what you click on, we need to have more explicit rules, not just for government, but for private companies. A first-generation fortune is the most likely to be given away, but once a fortune is inherited, it's less likely that a very high percentage will go back to society. We all need people who will give us feedback. That's how we improve. Legacy is a stupid thing. I don't want a legacy. If I would have some set idea of a finish line, don't you think I would have crossed it years ago? Like almost everyone who uses email, I receive a ton of spam every day. Much of it offers to help me get out of debt or get rich quick. It would be funny if it weren't so exciting. It's a nice reader, but there's nothing on the iPad I look at and say, oh, I wish Microsoft had done it. I believe that if you show people the problems and you show them the solutions, they will be moved to act. Television is not real life. In real life, people actually have to leave the coffee shop and go to jobs. Now, we put out a lot of carbon dioxide every year, over 26 billion tons. For each American, it's about 20 tons. For people in poor countries, it's less than 1 ton. It's an average of about 5 tons for everyone on the planet. And somehow, we have to make changes that will bring that down to 0. Whether it's Google or Apple or free software, we've got some fantastic competitors and it keeps us on our toes. The internet is becoming the town square for the global village of tomorrow. In this business, by the time you realize you're in trouble, it's too late to save yourself. Unless you are running scared all the time, you're gone. We are not even close to finishing the basic dream of what the PC can be. Lectures should go from being like the family singing around the piano to high-quality concerts. You may have heard of Black Friday and Cyber Monday. There is another day you might want to know about, Giving Tuesday. The idea is pretty straightforward. On the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, shoppers take a break from their gift buying and donate what they can to charity. Intellectual property has the shelf life of a banana. We always overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 years and underestimate the change that will occur in the next 10. Don't let yourself be lulled into inaction. The US couldn't even get rid of Saddam Hussein, and we all know that the EU is just a passing fad. They'll be killing each other again in less than a year. I'm sick to death of all these fascist lawsuits. Although I don't have a prescription for what others should do, I know I have been very fortunate and feel a responsibility to give back to society in a very significant way. Discrimination has a lot of layers that make it tough for minorities to get a leg up. In almost every area of human endeavor, the practice improves over time. That hasn't been the case for teaching. The AIDS is a disease that is hard to talk about. Philanthropy should be voluntary. We should all grow our own food and do our own waste processing. We really should. Just in terms of allocation of time resources, religion is not very efficient. There's a lot more I could be doing on a Sunday morning. DOS is ugly and interferes with users' experience. Treatment without prevention is simply unsustainable. Me and my dad are the biggest promoters of an estate tax in the US. It's not a popular position. If you're using first-class land for biofuels, then you're competing with the growing of food. And so you're actually spiking food prices by moving energy production into agriculture. your most unhappy customers are your greatest source of learning. China adopted a capitalism system in the 1980s, and they went from a 60% poverty rate to 10%. Life is not fair. Get used to it. People should just buy a CD and rip it. You are legal then. Climate change is a terrible problem, and it absolutely needs to be solved. It deserves to be a huge priority. If you go back to 1800, everybody was poor. I mean everybody. The Industrial Revolution kicked in and a lot of countries benefited, but by no means everyone. By improving health, empowering women, population growth comes down. If you can't make it good, at least make it look good. Oh, I think there are a lot of people who would be buying and selling online today that go up there and they get the information, but then when it comes to time to type in their credit card, they think twice because they're not sure about how that might get out and what that might mean for them. Expectations are a form of first-class truth. If people believe it, it's true. Certainly there's a phenomenon around open source. You know, free software will be a vibrant area. There will be a lot of neat things that get done there. We make the future sustainable when we invest in the poor, not when we insist on their suffering. By the time we see that climate change is really bad, your ability to fix it is extremely limited. The carbon gets up there, but the heating effect is delayed, and then the effect of that heat is on the species and ecosystem is delayed. That means that even when you turn virtuous, things are actually going to get worse for quite a while. This social networking thing takes you to crazy places. Whether I'm at the office, at home, or on the road, I always have a stack of books I'm looking forward to reading. Considering their impact, you might expect mosquitoes to get more attention than they do. Sharks kill fewer than a dozen people every year, and in the US, they get a week dedicated to them on TV every year. You have to have a certain realism that government is a pretty blunt instrument, and without the constant attention of highly qualified people with the right metrics, it will fall into not doing things very well. Effective philanthropy requires a lot of time and creativity, the same kind of focus and skills that building a business requires. $640K ought to be enough for anybody. I'm sorry that we have to have a Washington presence. We thrived during our first 16 years without any of this. I never made a political visit to Washington, and we had no people here. It wasn't on our radar screen. We were just making great software. People everywhere love Windows. Almost everywhere we make electricity today, except for the emerging renewables and nuclear, puts out CO2. And so, what we are going to have to do at a global scale is create a new system, and so we need energy miracles. Being flooded with information doesn't mean we have the right information or that we're in touch with the right people. Software is a great combination between artistry and engineering. Digital reading will completely take over. It's lightweight and is fantastic for sharing. Over time, it will take over. It's really kind of cool to have solar panels on your roof. I am results oriented. As we look ahead into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. This is a fantastic time to be entering the business world because business is going to change more in the next 10 years than it has in the last 50. The future of advertising is the internet. Nuclear energy in terms of an overall safety record is better than other energy. China is certainly an important player in the global economy, and a widespread AIDS epidemic will threaten that growth. I spent a lot of time reading. Which quote from Bill Gates did you find the most inspiring? Get involved and let us know in the comments down below. If you guys like this video, then be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Also, if you don't want to miss out on any new future videos, then be sure to click on the subscribe button and turn on the notification under this video so that you're notified the next time we upload a video on the best quotes from world-known famous personalities. Thank you for watching, and we will see you again in the next video. Goodbye. Goodbye.